Hello, and welcome to DrBerthatv.Talkshow. This program is designed to empower you to take charge of your health. We're going to be bringing you cutting-edge healthcare information. I'm hoping that by the end of each program, you would feel inspired to do something positive to stay healthy. It's designed to empower you, educate you, and keep you healthy. We're going to be talking about healthcare topics. We're going to be discussing healthcare policy, healthcare products. We'll talk a little bit about beauty, fashion, discuss personalities that are making the bank in healthcare. We have an exciting lineup for you every week. Make an effort to join us. For our maiden edition on June 14th, I interviewed 3 trailblazing women. One was Professor Afua Hesse, who is Ghana's first pediatric surgeon, not just the first female pediatric surgeon, the first one. She has worn many hats in her career, and she was joined by 2 other trailblazing women. One is Dr. Cynthia Kudji, who dared to go to medical school at the age of 43, and her daughter, Dr. Jasmine Kudji. What is remarkable about these 2 is that it's a mother and daughter. They graduated in 2020 and got accepted into the same healthcare system. You need to listen to their story. Cynthia started off as a nursing assistant, became a nurse, and a nurse practitioner for almost 9 years before she went to medical school. She did it, and you can do it too if you want. Now, here is something else that Cynthia shares with 2 other women who made history. Well, Dr. Sarah Oforiatta, who became Dr. Geograph Johnson, was the first person to describe kwashiorkor, a disease of malnutrition in children. She was a pediatrician. She was also West Africa's 3rd female physician. Then the other person that Dr. Cynthia Kudji reminds us of is Dr. Rebecca Crumpler. This was the first African-American woman to become a doctor in the United States of America. In 1860, which is exactly 140 years ago, she graduated from medical school. She had also been a nurse in the Boston area for many years before her doctors wrote a recommendation letter for her. She made history. She also wrote a book about medicine. So all these women are set to do great things. Now, this is relevant because as of 1920, there were only 65 African-American women physicians in the United States of America. And so these women are set to make history. Please join us on this journey as we learn about them. And definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, DrBerthatv.Talkshow.
And it was the same here. So coming back as a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh, Foundation Fellow of the West African College of Surgeons, and then later on the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, it wasn't an easy road, because for a long time I was the only female specialist in the department. So it was a question of trying to hopefully inspire other younger people to come and join. Fortunately, now the picture is changing. There are a lot more women. We've now got a lot of firsts in women in the various specialties, and I'm very, very, very happy and proud about that. So I was, there were only 2 of us pediatric surgeons serving the whole of the population for...
She was talking about women first. She is a first, and you 2 are a first. I mean, to think that somebody at the age of 43 will dare to go to medical school is outstanding. To think she can inspire her daughter to join her in the field of medicine is outstanding. And to think that you 2 went to medical school, you've graduated the same year, and then for some reason you were able to match into the same program is really, really historic. And I think that's why we all love to hear from you. So I'm going to speak with Mom first. I want you to tell us how the journey has been and how you got into nursing, and what made you at some point, like what bit you into saying, you know what, I'm going to go to medical school in 2013. Tell us.
Well, when I was in Ghana with my family, there was this lady, she just kind of randomly came up to us and my mom and I, and wanted us to help her with her child because the little girl was sick. And so we put her in water and everything. And the next day I asked my mom how she did. My mom's like, I don't think she did very well. Well, just kind of seeing that disparity and the fact that this woman came up to total strangers, for help, it hit home, and it made me want to do something. And that something was to be a physician. But, as life just kind of happens, I found myself pregnant with Jasmine my senior year at Tulane University. And my pastor was like, why don't you go into nursing? Which would have meant I had to put medicine aside because I needed an income. I needed to take care of Jasmine. So I did that, and I worked for 2 years as a nursing assistant, became an RN, and I worked that for 8 years. But Jasmine was still just too young, for me to go to medical school. So, and I wanted to just know more. And the closest thing I could think of was to be a nurse practitioner. So that's where being a nurse practitioner came from. And I would take her everywhere. I would take her to the clinics. I'd take her with patients, and if they let her listen to their heart, I'd let her listen to their heart or whatever, so she picked up on a lot. And so when she got into college, I remember her saying, oh, well, Mom, I think I'm going to bring my, I'll come see you on the weekend. You can wash my clothes or something. And I just kind of looked at her like, no. No. So, I was like, this is the perfect time for me to pursue my dreams. And so that's how, after all those years, at 43, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Awesome. And you did it. Now, thinking about the fact that you've been a nurse you've done nursing for over 15 years, how do you think that's going to affect the way you practice medicine or you relate to the nurses?
So absolutely. Nursing is one of those fields where you really learn family dynamics. You learn how to deal with your client. You learn how to communicate very well. You learn how to get into intimate details with your patients. And so you learn the value that the patient's story is important. And so as a nurse, in transitioning to be a physician, you bring that with you. And so I think as a physician, just really understanding people, that aspect of it's going to be extremely beneficial.
Wow. Okay. All right. And Jasmine, to you, how did your mom inspire you? What was going on through your mind all those days you went with her to work, and how did that affect your desire to go into medicine? Because you went to medical school, I believe 2015, 2 years after your mom went to medical school. So tell us a little bit about that.
So medicine was basically a part of my life, my entire life. So it seemed natural to go into medicine. Like my mom said, she took me with her to see patients. I had patient encounters, very early at the age of 6 and 7. I was listening to heart sounds and auscultating the lungs, so it just seemed like a natural thing for me to go to medical school. And, there were moments where I considered law school or I considered real estate, but those things just weren't like in the forefront of my mind, and they weren't as deeply rooted, so that's how I became a physician, essentially.
And how was medical school for you once you got in there? And you went to LSU for medical school, right? And your mom was how many hours away on St. Kitts Island?
Yeah,
she was very far.
Yeah, maybe at least
2 flights.
Yeah, at least two flights, sometimes 3 flights away. Mm-hmm. So I was in the Kitts, and I went to the University of Medicine Health Sciences. So yeah, we had to learn how to communicate differently. Mm-hmm. I remember our first night there. It was like the defining moment for me, because I was already making money as a nurse practitioner, right? I did not need to be there. But we were Skyping each other, and the Skype went completely mute, and I couldn't hear her. And I was like, why am I here? Why? This is not a good idea.
Yeah. So and that was a defining moment for you and just for our futures in general, because it just showed that this was going to be a difficult process. There were going to be things that we were going to have to adjust to and figure out. And, Skype was the first thing. We figured that out first. But after that, it was figuring out how to study. It was figuring out how to take multiple science courses at a time. It was figuring out how to work and then study after work, when clinical rotation started. So medical school was very tough. It was very, very difficult. It pushed us to our limits. There were many overnight study sessions, but we made it through together.
I see. Someone is having a difficult time getting on Zoom, so let me see. I'll send that information to them in just a moment. But talking about medical school, I want to see if Dr. Hesse, Prof. Hesse has a take. Medical school is hard.
Yes.
I finished medical school in 97 and it was so hard. And these are things we don't talk about. So I just want us to get real. I know we're inspiring people, but we need to let them know the stumbling blocks. There were several times I just wanted to quit. Like a few months before my final exam, I was like, why am I even doing this? Like, do I need to finish? And then I'll tell myself, you know what? You got a few months to go. Just keep going. These exams will be... So I want Professor Hesse to share her experience as a female medical student. And then you share how your medical student experience was, because it was hard.
Medical school is not a walk in the park. You have to be determined. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of information you must acquire and process. You have to be able to understand and make correlations. You have to be able to apply the knowledge. So it's not easy. The tips and the tricks, examinations are just meant to assess your level of knowledge. But at the time, we saw them as punishment, real punishment. Even now in our medical school, we see that going forward. But we try and encourage the young people that you're determined to do it. So if you apply yourself, you're disciplined, you work hard, you're systematic, you will pass. Mm-hmm. It will happen. It may take a little bit longer. Sometimes when those failures happen, they only become failures if you allow them to pull you down and discourage you. But if you learn from them, take that as a lesson and move forward, you will make it and you will qualify. Yeah. I'm sure that's your experience. I can see you.
Yeah. How was medical school? Jasmine, how was medical school? And then I'll come to Cynthia, because you were doing it at 43, which by that time, most people don't want to study any material. Like when I finished medical school, I told myself, I hope I don't have to write any exam for the rest of my life. And I was only 26 or so. And since then, I've written many more exams and I keep going. But like at that time, you don't want to do any test whatsoever. So Jasmine, tell us how your medical school experience was.
It was rough. It was very rough. I was an English major in college. So I took the prerequisites for medical school, but I had never taken that volume of science courses at one time. So starting on day one, having biochemistry and anatomy and physiology and immunology all at the same time, I was overwhelmed, and it took a few failures for me to find my pace and figure out how to study. But once I figured it out, I was okay, but it was very, very difficult. I think I strived more in the clinical setting because I'm more of a doer. That's why I went into surgery. I like to be hands-on. But those first 2 years of just studying all day, 24 hours a day, that was very, very difficult.
Right. Okay, Cynthia, tell us, you're 43. You're embarking on this seemingly impossible journey, like you're climbing Mount Everest. You don't even know how you're going to get there. You just said, I'm going to do this 27-year dream of mine, like the craziest thing that anybody would want to do. You're like, I'm going to do this. So tell us how it was, what helped you through, and how your daughter helped you, along the way.
Initially when I first went, because I was a nurse practitioner, I felt this sort of safety. I was like, oh, this is going to be like the nurse practitioner, right? I got this. I was so delusional. In the first week, I was so overwhelmed. I remember it was a Sunday, right? And I felt so overwhelmed. I called the dean at his house. And I said, my name is Cynthia Kudji, and I am overwhelmed. And he just started laughing. I said, I need to speak to you because this is too much work, too much information. I cannot do it like this. But my school was very, very good at accommodating me and saying, look, because they realized that it was just a lot of material, and I hadn't seen all these, there was a lot of diseases I hadn't even heard of, and that's what made it so difficult, but once, like Jasmine said, you get into the groove of studying and realizing that you have to take things bit by bit, you don't have to swallow the whole cake, you learn the foundations and you build on what you know. Right. So once I got that, and plus calling her all the time, what is this, or looking up certain things, because you begin to really rely on one another. We always say that the lines of mother and daughterhood was really blurred between us. So I learned to trust her when she would tell me, I would say, I'm failing this test and I don't understand why. She would say, well, why? Let me see how you're studying. And then it would help me, and she would evaluate me, and it would help me get through the exams. So it was a true learning experience, and Jasmine has been truly, truly my rock,
right,
through this.
Right. That's amazing. And for those of you listening who don't know, step 1 and 2, step 1 is the test that you take. It's called the U.S. Medical Licensing Exam. Step 1 does the basic sciences, the anatomy, the biochemistry, physiology. And step 2 is more of testing your clinical skills. And I was reading somewhere that Jasmine had to help Cynthia with the steps at some point. So tell us about that, because I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, it took me a long time to write my step 1 exam because it was so much material, and Jasmine was younger, quicker, understanding a lot of the concepts, and so she would literally just help me through the material, like anatomy, like that, why she wants to do surgery, and I was weaker in anatomy, and she would, have to sit there and explain to me, okay, this is what this does, and this is why it does this, and give me clinical examples, So I relied on her heavily for that test, heavily.
Yeah, and I think, it's very difficult studying for an exam like that because it's so much information that has to be synthesized in 8 hours. You have to use all the information at one time. And I think it's difficult for people to figure out how to put all that information in their heads. So we made a system that worked for us. And I remember she was studying one way and I was like, you need to scratch that. I was like, don't study like that anymore. I was like, we're going to study like this from now on. And it worked out. Yeah, it worked out.
So you were each other's support, and that was good. That's the kind of support we encourage the students to have, within their groups. Because your way of studying may not be the best. Somebody else might have a better way. And if you are willing to listen to each other, it always works out.
Oh, yeah. Medical school is very humbling. Very humbling.
Very humbling, right? And in fact, when I went to medical school, we had one of our professors, just anatomy, just before a test, he would say the evil wind is about to blow. Oh my God. The evil wind is about to blow, and we would get so scared. And so that's Professor Hesse. I had the opportunity to visit her medical school, and they have this computerized body anatomy. It's also
anatomy. Yes.
Yeah, I'll let her tell us a little bit. And I mean, she gave me a tour of the school. I had a tour guide. And you just had to touch the parts and they moved. And I thought, if we had anatomy this way, it would be so easy to learn versus those dissection books we had to go to. So tell us a little bit about that, Professor Hesse.
All right. Well, the Accra College of Medicine tries to use innovative technology in teaching and learning. So we have quite a number of these devices. In my time, we had these anatomy bodies that were impregnated with formalin, and you hated the smell of them, and you dissected once you had dissected, you couldn't go back again to redo the dissection and reacquaint yourself with the relationships of various structures and organs. So the Anatomage is a tool. It's a life-size computer that has different models, male models, female models, and you are able to dissect from skin. You see the layers underneath subcutaneous tissue, you see the muscles, you see the bones, everything in place, you can reconstruct the electronic image and start all over again. So as many times as you need to learn that particular anatomy, you can keep going over and over again. You can do transverse sections, you can do longitudinal sections. So it's a very involved way, and especially if you're a visual learner, you know, who remembers by seeing things, then you've got the images right there, which you can keep going over and over. But we're finding that a lot of young people, I don't know whether it's the Ghanaian or it's just the generation, are not so willing to put in the work and even use the tools that they have. We didn't have that. And maybe in our day, if we had, it would have made things a whole lot easier. And certainly more interactive, you know, because you can go back at any time and use tools. Yeah.
I see. So now, Cynthia, thank you, Prof. Hesse. Cynthia and Jasmine, did you have to do steeplechase for your exams for anatomy?
What is steeplechase?
Okay, so steeplechase was Prof. Hesse is laughing. So, you know, when we went to medical school, everybody was assigned a body. You know, ours were my table. We were 4 of us, and our table, we named our cadaver Goldilocks because she was kind of a peace woman. And once we peeled up layers of her skin, everything was like pure, bright yellow, basically. So Goldilocks. And a steeplechase exam was they would pin a label to maybe a nerve or muscle, and you literally had like, I don't know if it was 30 seconds or 1 minute, but you were supposed to go from table to table and identify the parts, and it was just like this anxiety provoking. Did you do anything like that?
Yes, we did that. The way ours were set up, we had a 3-hour morning exam, and then we had a 15-minute break, and then we had a 2-hour practical where we did we went to the different tanks and looked at the dissections and had to identify things. And that was the longest exam I had ever taken. It was all day. I was exhausted by the end of it.
Yeah, those are called the...
No, go ahead, Cynthia.
Those are our practicums, what we call our practicums. So so you do the paper exam first, and then afterwards you go by table to table to table, and you sit there and you look at it and you write down what you think it is, and then there's a buzzer that goes off and you go to the next step.
And the crazy
part, all right, so you had that experience. Chase and
these days you can do it the other way with using say slides which show images where you label and you're supposed to identify the areas, you know, either 3D or 2D. And it's the same principle, but you can do it sitting in one place, and then the slides just are timed, so they change with time.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we call the modified. We call it either the for the OSP, which is Objective Structured Practical Examinations, you know.
Right. And why they have to give you the shortest possible time for...
It's short for you. It's short for you because you probably haven't done the work you should have done before. Because if you know it, you know it.
You know it, right?
You know it.
But if you try to figure it out, it's like...
Exactly.
And the hard part was they would cover up the key parts of the body that you would use for hints. They would cover those up, you know. So you get to really just know that relationship.
Orient yourself, and you know, is this head? Which end is head? Which end is?
That was fun. So it's behind you now. But Jasmine, I understand February 14th of 2015 was a big day because that's when you discovered that you were getting admission. So I want you to tell us into medical school how that felt, and then March 20th found the two of you screaming your heads off. So I want you to tell us about that experience as well. Jasmine.
Yeah, you know, I had graduated from undergraduate early, so I had about 6 months off before starting medical school. And at that time I didn't know I was going to be starting, but I was hoping that I would be. And so February 14th, Valentine's Day, I got the letter in the mail saying that I was going to be starting medical school in the fall, and I just screamed and I cried and I ran around the living room. I was calling everyone. It was just an amazing moment because I just wasn't sure if I was going to get in or not, and I ended up getting in at LSU right at home. So that was great.
Excellent. And then March 20th, first of all, before you get into the 20th of 3/20/20 would be an important date for the two of you. I know that when you have to get into residency, you choose a lot of schools and then you have no control over the match whatsoever. Did you have any control at all? Did you know somebody who knew somebody who wanted to put you in the same schools, or tell me how that worked out?
No, it was just chance. I mean, the way that my mom ended up coming to Louisiana, first and foremost, was that I was rotating in Lafayette because I'm a part of the Rural Scholars Program, where I'm supposed to be working in a rural part of Louisiana and they pay my tuition. And so I love the program. And I told my mom, I said, you have to come out here. But her school didn't have a connection with my program. So I went to go speak to the administration and they were like, we're going to get your mom out here. She's going to do an away rotation out here. And she did. She came for 6 weeks and she completely loved the program. And so she was like, I have to rank this program high. Mm-hmm. So she ranked them high, and I'm assuming they ranked her high, and that's how we ended up here.
Yeah. My goodness. So actually in exactly 16 days, you're going to be new residents.
Yes.
COVID-19 era. Are we all giving you too much pressure with all these interviews? Do you feel like, gosh, we need a break to
I mean, it's been a lot, but it's been nice to share the story. And in between these interviews, we've just been preparing. We've been studying for our board exams that are coming up. We've been trying to prepare for the rotations that we're going to be starting in July. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot, going on. But I think that's just been our lives in general. Yeah. We've learned to juggle all the balls. Yeah. So it is what it is.
And and the best part about it is that we've got just an amazing amount of feedback. So it really inspires us to just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So do you have any mentors who you're looking to kind of hold your hands during residency, especially Jasmine, the surgery part? I know it can be rough, and family practice residency is equally rough as well, because you're delivering babies, you're taking care of kids, ER. Do you have people who say, look, we're going to make this journey easy for you?
Not necessarily. I mean, I know that my hospital just recently hired an African-American surgical oncologist, and she's one of the only female surgeons there. So I will be reaching out to her on July 1st, just to, connect with her and see if maybe she can become a mentor. But it is difficult. There are a few surgeons that I've formed connections with, but it's kind of sporadic. It's hard to build those relationships sometimes.
Because especially when you're in residency, you're under the scrutiny so much, and you don't want to cross the line between, being a resident versus your, an attending or whatnot. So a lot of times we rely heavily on our upperclassmen. So the second years and the third years to really help us and guide us through those first few years.
I see. So, Professor Hesse, do you have any advice for Jasmine? Is there something she needs to know as a surgical resident?
Well, all I'll say is, Jasmine, you will always need to remember your basic principles, because that's what you're going to apply with every situation. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, you've got to be extra dedicated, because so much more is going to be expected of you in terms of your approach to patients, your knowledge of patients, your willingness to ask when you don't know, your willingness to listen when you're given advice, but also to be able to weigh it with what you know, based on the principles that you have been taught in medical school.
Yeah.
So once people see that you are reliable, you are honest, you have integrity, and they can depend on your word, you will move that much faster, because that is always crucial, especially where there are not so many people within the circuit. And when you show, you're not boasting, but when you show evidence that you are keeping up with advances, you're reading journals, You're keeping up with knowledge. You're asking questions when you're not sure of what you've read. And you're willing to sacrifice. You will have to make a lot of sacrifices in those early times. When you are tired and your boss asks you to do something, no matter how tired you are, if you do it, there's something waiting for you at the end of it.
So what I hear is sacrifice. And Prof. Hesse, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but would you mind being a mentor to Jasmine for the 5 or so years that...
Jasmine, would you like me to be? I would
love that. That would be
I
amazing.
would be honored. So we'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
And anytime you have any questions.
Thank you so much.
I have a few such persons around different places.
Thank you.
I would be delighted. And of course, next time you come to Ghana, you must come and see me.
Oh, sure. Definitely.
Yeah, you should see that medical school. It's really beautiful, very well organized, and I think that the students would love to hear from you as well. So back to you, Professor Hesse. Cynthia is a mother. She's going into medicine, and Jasmine is going to, graduate as a surgeon. What do you have to tell them? I mean, when I look at you, I'm thinking, how did this woman raise 4 children? She has a husband who is a minister and also a physician. She has a very demanding schedule. I mean, if you're a pediatric surgeon, I imagine they'll call you in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter if you're breastfeeding or your kids are sick, you have to show up. How did you handle all this, and what do you have to tell Cynthia and Jasmine as they embark on this journey as female physicians? Because in the US right now, only 5% of physicians surveyed are African American, they're Black, and even fewer still are women. So these are minority women who are going to trailblaze a field. What do you have to tell them, combining motherhood, wife, work, etc.?
Okay. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is it can be done. I've done it. I'm not the only one. There are a number of women who've also done it. So it is doable. Once you know something can be done, then the question is, how do I also get there? First of all, you must be disciplined. And I know both of you are very disciplined because you have to have structure to your day and your routine. Everything must go according to plan. In the planning, you must put yourselves there because you have to take into account for every day what is going to come up and what are the possibilities are and how am I going to overcome them. You have to be prepared yourself. So discipline. For me, my relationship with God was also crucial because I had my faith strong to hold on to. The days when things don't seem to be going well, you've just lost the patient, when you really did the best you could for them and you're really feeling low, that's when you go to God and He strengthens you because He enabled you to be in the position you are. So He's there to give you the strength you need to carry on. Then you've got each other. So support, strength, your faith, prayers, determination, discipline. And you don't procrastinate. Procrastination is awful. No procrastination. If anything needs doing, try and do it now. Try and do it now. Then the other thing you always should have is some way of, as you're going around your daily work, take notes. What needs to be done? What needs to be done? You'll find that there's so much to be done that if you don't have a systematic way of reminding yourself of what needs to be done, it will be quite easy to forget some key things and important things. What needs to be done, take it off as you do it. And then if new things come, you keep adding on some way, whether it's your phone, your tablet. Nowadays, we don't like writing. We used to have it in our pockets. But if you have God as your rock, He will see you through.
Right.
Because then, what do you have to worry about? He watched over you to get you this far. So why will He not see you to the end, especially as He has a good purpose and a good plan for you? So that's where I would start.
Thank you so much.
Outstanding. And just so you know, we've been joined by about 41 people. Dr. Richard Ayi said very interesting discussions. There's someone called Akamboli, who said, we're grateful to you for organizing this webinar. Dr. Ifonyenin said GPSF has surgeons and mentoring is great. And Miss Jane Paul Saba says, I'm so proud of you ladies and of my alma mater. She didn't say which alma mater, but she says she wishes you God's blessings. And we have a question from Marianne Sampega, who said, how did you survive as a clinical leader? And how did you handle thoughts of quitting as a clinical leader if you ever had one? And I'm assuming that's for Prof. Hesse.
Surviving as a clinical leader. Whoa. You know, one thing I told myself when the opportunity came for the various roles that I was invited to get involved in, it was because I had modeled that within my department. People had seen something that they thought I could bring to something else. So once I prayed over it and agreed, I didn't go in my own strength, but I went in God's strength. You know, but you will always find the Tobiases and the Sambalats who will always be seeking to pull you down. But once you know whose praise you're looking for, you're not looking for the praise of men, but you're looking for the praise of God. So that was my rock and my strength. Once you know you're doing the right thing, you get known for always doing the right thing. Once you know you're doing the right thing, that becomes your strength and your motivation to move on in spite of whatever might be happening around.
That's excellent. And in fact, this morning I was discussing Philippians 4:8 with my children and telling them whatsoever things are pure, honest, lovely, if there's a good report, if there's any praise, think on these things. And when she was talking, what it reminded me about was always doing the right thing. It's honesty, like inculcating truth into everything you do, so that when you do something, people trust that this is who you are. And so you create an image of purity and always doing the right thing. And you're going to need to arm your minds as you go into residency. If something good report, we're going to do excellently well and we're going to do amazing. You keep telling yourself that, and that's actually what is going to happen in your life. And so there's a question. Thank you, Professor Hesse. There's a question for Cynthia that says, what are your thoughts on Caribbean Medical School? It's from an anonymous someone who joined us. And we've also been joined by Ms. Akosia Nyakun, Dr. Afua Hesse, Dr. Abba Gazy, Mr. Albert Okine, who's a physician assistant in psychiatry. We have someone called Ben Daghiwadofori, Catherine Mbia, Dr. Snadede Ayite, Doris, Dr. Ernie, Miss Elsie Enin, Arabna Mills Robertson. We're so grateful to all of them. We have about 45 people listening to us. Francis Ajiman, Grace Akrofi, Jane Kwausaba, Miss J, Jennifer, Mr. Kofi Tonto. He's the head of information at the Ghana Embassy. He promised to tune in and listen. He said he has spoken to the two of you already. Leticia Tashong, Lenucia, Maya, Mariam Pega, Monica, Miss Muriel, Pam, Dr. Theodora Finn. She used to be the past president of Ghana Physicians and Surgeons Foundation, and Miss Ruby Puku. I'll mention the rest as we go along, but thank you all of you for joining and tuning in. We're so happy to have you. So back to you, Cynthia. What are your thoughts on Caribbean Medical School? Is it a good experience? Should people go for it?
So I really, really loved my school. They were extremely supportive. They understood the fact that I was coming in as an older student, and regardless of what my background was, they gave me the opportunity to put it on the side and just be a student learning from scratch. I think the most important thing that if you decide to do a foreign medical school is that, number one, you need to do your research. Look at the numbers as far as their match rate. Make sure that they're graduating and they're matching students in the U.S. Talk to other students, and I think that was really important for me, was to be able to talk to students who are currently there and those who had graduated from those universities. Because they have some really strong programs out there, but you have to do your research. And I think what they offer now, a lot of them offer the same caliber of education as U.S. schools. It's the same rigor, and it's not easier to get in. You still have to meet all of the requirements. And then once you get in, you're going to have to work your butt off.
Work your butt off. That's true. Work your butt off. Work your butt off. Anyway, that's true. So future plans. Now, one of you is going to be at Lafayette and the other one is going to be in New Orleans.
Right. I'll be in Lafayette.
What? Both of you are Lafayette?
Yeah, I'll be in Lafayette and Jasmine will be in,
I'll be in 3 different cities. So I'll start in New Orleans for the next 6 months, and then I'll be in Lafayette for 2 months, and then I'll go to another city and then another city. So we move a lot.
That's awesome. There's this saying which I love. It says the heights at which great men have achieved was not by easy flights, but they, when their friends slept, they toiled in the night. I mean, when you graduate and you're a surgeon and you're like driving your car around, somebody would think, oh, and she became they don't know what it's taking you to get to where you are, that it's not been an easy road. And so Dr. Abagazi said a big congratulations to you, Cynthia and Jasmine. I'm very, very proud of you. So I think you can say a shout out to her. And,
thank you so much.
Okay, and someone said Uncle Kwame in Japan and Auntie.
Hey! Hey, Uncle!
We're listening and we're so proud of you. And Elsie Enin said, thank you for holding this webinar, Dr. Ayi. Can the panelists speak to tips they had from their residency interview trial? So any tips to share with them as to how to ace that residency program?
I think the most important thing for residency interviews is doing your research beforehand. I made a point to look at who the program director was. If they did any research, I made sure to read up on their research. I also had people who asked me to do surgical skills during the interview. So just make sure you know how to suture and know how to tie, and but most importantly, you just have to be yourself. I know there are a lot of people who struggle during interviews because we get nervous and it's hard to show your personality, but ultimately they want to see, can I work with this person for the next 5 years? Is this someone that I can get along with every day for 12 hours? So just be yourself.
That's right. And one advice that I definitely would give to anybody that's starting out in medical school, a lot of people tell you, oh, your grades don't matter. Oh, this doesn't matter, or that doesn't matter. Everything matters. Everything matters. Every score, every test, every quiz, everything matters. Because I even at my interviews, they were going through like, why did you make this? And why did you make that? And they wanted me to explain that. Mm-hmm. So everything matters. And you just need to be serious and consistent when you're in medical school.
Yeah. And that's another good point is if you do have any red flags in your application, know how to explain them in a way that is positive, and that shows that you've learned from your mistakes and that you've become a better clinician and a better student. Because they will ask you about that.
Right. And if they don't ask you, ask them, what are the red flags do you see in my application? Because what you see in what they see now, that means somebody else is also seeing the same thing, and it'll give you kind of a heads up. So, and if they don't bring it up, you bring up your red flags and you show how you overcame them.
All right, that's excellent. And an anonymous person said, how long did it take you to transition from nurse practitioner to MD? Is it the same amount? I don't know if it meant the same amount of time. And this is for Dr. Cynthia Kudji.
So the way you become a nurse practitioner is you first have to be an RN, right? So you get your bachelor's degree, and then you do either a 2-year or 3-year master's to be a nurse practitioner. So the transition to go from from being a nurse practitioner to going to be a physician is the same. You don't get any advantage. You start from the bottom, okay? And in fact, what I would tell you was everything you thought you knew and you understood and you take that, put it aside because you don't know. I'll tell you a true story. My first week in medical school, my professor asked me to come in front and show everybody how to take a blood pressure. Now, I've been taking blood pressures, 9, 10 plus 18 years, right? And I took the blood pressure, I pumped it up to 200, I let it back down, I got my systolic, I got my diastolic, and I told him what it was, and he was great. Wonderful job. He says, but you missed a population of people. He said, you missed people. He said, he asked me, had I heard of the oscillatory gap? And I was like, I didn't even know, I had never heard of that, right? And so it humbled me. And I realized that, you know what, if I don't know how to take a proper blood pressure that I've been doing every single day, right, that how much more did I not know?
No.
And so you got to go in it realizing that you don't know, and it's okay to not know.
I see. So that's interesting. And there's some feedback for you here. Grace Akofi says, proud of you ladies, more grease to your elbows. Yvonne S.A. says, congratulations, Cynthia and Jasmine. You're an inspiration. And Dr. Theodora Finn says, Professor Hesse, such a household name in Ghana, woman indeed of substance, breaking all the odds, and you're still looking good. And kudos to your
Thank God. Thank you.
Oh, and Jennifer says, hello, Auntie Bertha, it's your niece, Jennifer, watching from New York. And Abba Gazy says, thank you all for organizing this. And there's a question for Professor Hesse. It says, what is the criteria for selection and cost for your medical school? And there's two questions for Cynthia. So I want you to be thinking of it while Professor Hesse answers the question. It says, how did you decide on family medicine? I'm assuming versus other things. So Prof, you can answer your question first.
All right. Well, applications are in process. It's an online process, but you'll be guided through if you have challenges. So you just go to our website, www.accracollegeofmedicine.edu.gh, and it's acm.edu.gh, but it's Accra College of Medicine, and you just download the forms and apply. And our tuition is city equivalent of $12,500 per year.
Wow.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I was telling some medical students, some young aspiring medical students on Friday, they had a little seminar that, medical school in Ghana costs about $12,000 a year. If you are not a Ghanaian citizen, and if if your parents are Ghanaian and you're dual citizen, you could do it for $6,000 a year. And there are 5 medical schools, public ones, and 2 private ones, one of which is the Accra College of Medicine that Professor Hesse runs. So that's for, if you have people who cannot for some reason get into medical school here, and they have a very rigorous program. We all graduated from Ghana medical schools, and you have a lot of attention and all that. So that works. Thank you, Professor Hesse, for your answer. And Cynthia, I saw how you looked at your daughter. Were you thinking, gee, we should have done it in Ghana?
My parents didn't tell me this.
It's like, can we get a refund? Can we just redo this?
We go into so much debt with our education. My gosh.
I know. And then you would be eating Ghanaian food, listening to and then you could come and do attachments. You could come and do some elective programs in the US. So it's way cheaper. It's way cheaper.
Wonderful.
Well, but hindsight, Jasmine's kids are coming along, so they could still.
That's true.
And your family members. Anyway, so Cynthia, it says, how did you decide on family medicine?
It's funny. I originally said I was going to go into a specialty, and Jasmine kept saying, "No, you're not." And I was like, "No, I want to do like nephrology." And she was like, "No, you're not." But to be honest, as a nurse practitioner, I was a family nurse practitioner, and so as a family practitioner, you take care of someone. We say from the womb to the tomb, and there's just so much that you can do with it. I like the versatility of being a family doctor. I can do a hospitalist, I can work in the ER, I can deliver babies. So I loved that part, that aspect of it. But it really happened when I went back into the clinic setting, and when I set foot in the clinic, I took care of my first patient, and I knew that this is it. I knew I was going to be doing family medicine.
Yeah. And I knew that she was going to go into family medicine because she's such a people person. You know, my mom loves people. She gets along with people so well, and her patients love her. And I've seen that all of my life, you know. So I was like, no, you're going to do family.
Yeah. And we just love her from afar. She's so passionate. So I can believe, I mean, I can really, you can hear it in her voice, her demeanor. But I'm sure as a parent, you know the strict side of her as well, right?
I know it very well, more than anyone else.
You know, Ghanaian parents will be friends with you when you're now disciplined and a teenager, but when you're young, you're going to get that butt whipping, you know, when
definitely. I remember, and I tell her, we had this story one time, and can I tell them?
Yeah.
Okay. So when she was like, she was like 4 years old, and it was maybe like 9 o'clock at night, and I asked her something, and she didn't tell me the truth. And so I looked at her, I said, well, since you cannot tell me the truth, I do not want you to be a part of my family. And I was like, you need to pack your stuff and get out. I said, no, don't even pack, just get out. So I put her outside the house, I locked the door, and then you hear this, Mommy. And from this day on, Jasmine will not lie to me. I can't traumatize my child.
Oh boy. Anyway, we're getting to the end of our program. So I'm going to ask you your future plans. Professor Hesse is the dean of a medical school. So I know her future plans. I mean, she could tell us that, but I want you to tell us your future plans, and then what are you hoping to do after residency? What do you see yourself doing 10 years from now? And then think of something to tell the audience. We have medical students, we have physicians, and then we'll be wrapping up pretty soon. So let's start with Mom. Cynthia, what are your plans for the future?
So Jasmine and I have talked a lot about opening up a clinic. We've talked a lot about establishing relationships in Ghana as well as in the US. We definitely would love to be able to be a part of the educational system, whether it be in Ghana, whether it be in the US. For us, it's really important to be that image. You know, when I was coming up, there just weren't that many African Americans or Africans that I could really like put my hand on and say, this is how you go about doing it. And so we really want to be instrumental in helping young people to drive up the numbers of being physicians. So yes, it would be nice to have our own clinic, but we really want to be educators as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you're going to get a lot of help. I mean, now a lot of people know you. I'm sure somebody would want to even put up a clinic for you for free or something. So I'll be sharing your Instagram pages in just a moment. So how about you, Jasmine? What are your future plans?
Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly what type of surgery I'm going to specialize in, or if I'm going to specialize at all. I've had an interest in burn surgery as well as plastics. I've thought about pediatrics as well. So I'm going to take this 5 years to kind of figure it all out. But I would like to have my own practice one day, maybe with my mom, you know, maybe open that up together. But I also definitely see myself being clinical faculty. Because for me, it was difficult finding, you know, people who looked like me, you know, who understood my background, who could help me through this process. So I would love to be able to do that for other students.
Right. And someone has a question for you. It says, what advice do you have for young ladies, Dr. Jasmine? Young ladies who want to go into medicine?
My advice would be just to do it. I think for a lot of us, it seems very easy to just do the easy route. You know, and medical school is hard, it's long, and, you know, you have a lot of thoughts like, well, I want to have children, I want to get married, and you feel like you can't do those things and go to medical school. But just like Dr. Hesse said, it's possible. You know, you just have to stay focused, and you just have to be determined to do all the things. So I would just say, just do it, and be yourself in the process. I think that's another thing, is that we tend to lose sight of who we are and who we want to be. And it's very easy to do that, and you just have to stay true to who you are.
Right. As somebody would say, just do you, you know?
Just do you, exactly.
Don't try to fake it. And Catherine Mbia says, thank you, ladies, and congratulations to Dr. Cynthia and Jasmine Kudji. I'm very touched and blessed by your story. It inspires all women, especially African American women, that all things are possible once we set our minds and our hearts to it and trust God to see us through. Congratulations. And Uncle Kwame Japan says the whole of Ahafu Kenyasi and Lolobi Kumasi are waiting for them after COVID-19. You're going to have a heroines welcome once you get home. And yeah. And so, Jasmine, tell us, what do you have to, what are your you've mentioned what do you have to tell people?
About my future plans?
Yeah, well, future plans. And is there anything you want to say as a sort of parting words for those who tuned in to listen to you?
You know, I just want to say thank you. This has been an incredible experience, and we have received such a welcoming response from the entire world. And just to have that support system, especially now, and especially knowing that we didn't have it before, you know, having all these people rally around us has just been amazing.
Right. Outstanding. And can you see my screen? I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see mother and daughter. Now you look like twins. We can tell you apart. And you've gotten more beautiful with age. And this is the two of you putting, helping each other out with your graduation gowns and holding hands. And I want to share your blog. This is a beautiful blog with mdliveblog.com. You can follow Dr. Kudji on Instagram over there. And you can also reach out to Jasmine on the same site. Jasmine has 5,000 followers already. My goodness, that's a lot. And Mom has 2,000, almost 3,000 followers. I'm sure there are a few suitors looking out for you, and that's why Jasmine probably has 5,000. And then you can reach out to Professor Hesse on Twitter at Accra College Medicine or Instagram, Facebook, and if you have my email, if you're not sure how to reach them, you can have that as well. And Professor Hesse for joining us. Oh, and next week on the program, on next Saturday, I'll be interviewing Dr. Arikana Shombori Kwao, who is the former AU ambassador to the United States. She formed an organization called African Diaspora Development Institute. Our ADDI.org. I will encourage all of you to join. And Professor Hesse, thank you so much for this opportunity to interview you. And as a show of gratitude, you're going to be getting 200 Ghana cedis mobile units on your phone. I'll do that after the program. Thank you.
Whoa.
It's just a token.
I wasn't expecting that. But Bertha, let me just say. And can I say?
I'm going to be mailing this cue back to you. You can carry it out on your rounds. And Cynthia is getting a brand new stethoscope for all the organizations. So I'll send it to you after the program. You just send me your address. And I also want to I want to thank all of you who were able to make it. It's been amazing. We had about 46 people tuning in. At some point, we'll put it on Facebook and YouTube so that you can also inspire others. So I'll give you a chance to say your final words, and we'll end the program. I think it's been first of all, it's been relaxing just talking to all three of you and reminiscing into medical school. So I've enjoyed it immensely, and I hope our audience have too. So I'll start with Professor Hesse. Your last words.
Thank you very much for having me and inviting me to meet these two awesome women whom I'm not too strong on most social media, but I heard your story and I've just been longing to meet you. So I really wish you all the best in everything you do. And the way God has helped you to get where you are, He will help you even further to His glory. So lovely meeting you, and I look forward to hearing from you. And thank you everybody who has participated and listened to us. Thank you very much for having me, Beth.
All right, you're welcome. All right, Jasmine.
I just want to say thank you again to everyone as well. It was amazing meeting all of you. And just to have, once again, all the support has just been unbelievable.
Awesome. And then Miss how do I say miss? After getting a doctorate degree, Dr. Cynthia. You know what? Let me tell you, on your medical journey, this is just a personal experience. I found that most people find it so hard calling women doctor. They're going to do everything to call you by your first name. Meanwhile, you'll be standing with somebody who is 20 years your junior. He's a young male medical student. They'll call them doctors. So just get you.
Yes.
And Prof told me.
I went through that as well.
Yeah, we're so, it's so funny because they'll tell you, oh, you're the nurse. And we're like, no, we're the doctors.
We're always the nurses.
Always the nurse.
Always.
Even when I was a consultant, I was the nurse.
Yes.
I was a
So forgive me for falling into that blunder. Dr. Cynthia Kudji, so you give your final words and we'll say a big thank you to everyone.
Again, thank you so much to everybody. This journey has been absolutely amazing. Dr. Hesse, thank you so much for being a mentor for Jasmine. I can't even put into words how much that means to me as a mom, because, you know, you can only give what you have. And when people step up and are able to be that mentor for your daughter, you know, you're going to be able to give her information and knowledge that I won't be able to. And it really, truly, you know, attests to the statement that it takes a village to make us. Right. And so I truly, truly am so grateful to your assistance and your knowledge and, you know, your understanding of our journey. And to everyone else, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. And Ghana is waiting for you. Not only the 2 towns that were mentioned, we're waiting to see you do something in Ghana, whatever it is. We're waiting for you. Finally, Amari said, thank you, Dr. Ayi. Thank you, Mom and Daughter, and Prof. Hesse. Truly a superstar. Albert said, wonderful interview, Dr. Bertha Ayi. Susie said, thank you for sharing your great experiences with us, Prof. Hesse. You are an inspiration to all of us. We love and appreciate you so much. And this is from Susie. And so we'll bring the program to an end. Thank you so much. I am so grateful. And it's just wonderful. This has been a great woman time of just chatting and talking about steeplechase and anatomy and all the great future ahead of us. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, everyone.